On My 600-Pound Life, getting approved for surgery is the milestone every patient works toward.
Since you lost some weight, we're going to go ahead and put you on the schedule for weight loss surgery.
Most patients would do anything to hear those words. But believe it or not, there were actually a few patients who declined to go through with the surgery after working so hard to lose enough weight to qualify.
And I don't feel at this point that I need to go through getting a surgery when I'm absolutely confident that I can do this now.
Today, I'm spotlighting the patients who earned their shot at surgery and then walked away, and what actually happened to them after making that decision. And if you're into patient follow-ups like this, hit that thumbs up to let me know. And head to the community tab afterward to vote on the video I should make next. First up, Mark Rutland from season 11. Mark was over 700 pounds at 42 years old, and he still relied on his parents for everything. He lived in his parents' pool house and hadn't held a job in years. So they pushed him to join Dr. Now's weight loss program, hoping it would change his life. But even before he made it to Houston, you could kinda already tell his motivation just wasn't there.
I have a lot of anxiety about going out in the public now. I don't want to deal with looks, I don't want to deal with comments. I don't want to deal with any of it. I'm just over all of it, you know? So if you have to do it, you've got to put that brave face on, like, okay, I got to do it, but I don't got to like it.
When Mark finally sat down with Dr. Now, he was told to lose 120 pounds in 2 months. That's like twice as much weight as most new patients. I honestly can't remember a month 2 goal weight like that, can you? But somehow, against every expectation, Mark actually pulled it off.
I'm supposed to lose 120 pounds over 2 months.
All right, your weight is 618.
Oh my God. I mean, that's damn impressive, son.
Even his dad was impressed, and he wasn't the only one. Dr. Now cleared him for surgery on the spot. But Mark asked for something else instead.
Could you help me do this without the surgery? Is that possible? I feel strong in my mind. I feel like I can do this. I'm making the right steps. I know it's going to be hard.
Mark wanted to lose the weight on his own without surgery. Dr. Now warned him that if he kept going down this route, the weight loss would eventually slow down and then he'd start gaining again. Dr. Now agreed to keep seeing him, but only if he kept losing weight consistently. It didn't take long for Dr. Now's warning to come true.
How is your weight doing?
I actually gained a few pounds.
By his 4th appointment, Mark started gaining weight, but he still refused to get the surgery. Dr. Now, out of options, brought in a psychologist to figure out what was really going on.
There's all kinds of people, including your doctors, that are giving you strong advice that the surgery is your best possible bet right now. And it doesn't make sense that you're turning it down, and you need to ask yourself, why am I going against medical advice?
It means that I'm betting on myself for the first time in a long time.
I don't know that it's really betting on yourself. Your very best bet is to have the surgery, and I hope that you reconsider. I hope that you think about what it means to not take advantage of the tool that you have in front of you.
Thank you so much.
But Mark still wouldn't budge on going through with the surgery. And with his weight loss progress completely stalled otherwise, Dr. Now had no choice but to remove him from the program. Even after cutting ties with Dr. Now, Mark was determined to continue losing weight without medical intervention. And by March 2023, he was down to around 480 pounds. Sure, 480 pounds is still a long way from healthy, but Mark had already dropped over 200 pounds entirely on his own and showed no signs of stopping. It's hard not to be impressed. Remember, this was before GLP-1s were available all willy-nilly. But then, in September 2024, Mark revealed he'd been diagnosed with bladder cancer.
So I just found out that I have bladder cancer. Don't know how bad it is right now. I was contemplating just keeping this battle private, but kind of feel an obligation being on the show. And unfortunately, many of you guys have reached out to me to share with me your battles. And I just want you to know you're not alone. So be it weight loss, addiction, cancer, you're not alone, man. I'm in the fight with you.
After 6 months of treatment, his condition hadn't improved. In fact, more tumors had developed. Even as his body fought cancer and was put through the ringer of arduous treatment, it appears that Mark stayed committed to his fitness routine. He knew taking care of his body would be so important if he hoped to have a fighting chance at recovery. Fortunately, in November 2025, Mark received some hopeful news. After multiple surgeries and rounds of treatment, the tumors were finally shrinking. And as of June 2026, Mark's attitude and perspective on life had never been more optimistic, even in the face of the darkest adversity. Nobody knows what the future holds for Mark, but he's beaten the odds before and surpassed everyone's expectations. I have faith that he's got what it takes to do it again, don't you? Next on the list is actually another patient from season 11, Chris Parsons. Chris was 36 years old and over 600 pounds. Curious how someone gets to 600 pounds? Just take a look at what Chris considered a normal breakfast.
As soon as I hit that first bite, I eat it all. I call it going red. I can't stop. When I'm eating, I don't think of anything. It clears my mind.
That's definitely one of the craziest meals ever. Chris finally reached out to Dr. Now, and once he joined Dr. Now's program, he didn't hold back. He committed to the 1,200 calorie plan, started exercising hard, and even took it further.
I read Dr. Now's book and all the papers he gave me, and I feel like I've learned the ins and outs of his 1,200 calorie a day diet.
Eat the lettuce.
But I've added some bigger steps onto it for me, because every 5 days I'm fasting for 5 days. I didn't eat anything in that time. I just do water and vitamins, so I'm hoping that gives me an edge to lose weight faster.
This wasn't just a diet anymore. Chris was fasting on top of an already brutal 1,200 calorie plan. For a body used to running on 6,000 calories a day, it was a risky move. That's a massive shock to the system. Even Dr. Now cautioned him against it directly. But Chris pushed forward anyway, and it worked. By the next appointment, Chris had lost enough weight, and Dr. Now approved him for surgery. Everything was in place. The surgery was just days away. And then Chris did something nobody saw coming.
Well, I was supposed to have my surgery last week. They ran all the tests and everything looks good, and I was excited about it. But as the day got closer, I started to realize that it's getting easier and easier to keep losing weight on my own. So I started to think I might not need weight loss surgery to do this, or maybe I was getting it too soon. And so right before the surgery, I got to where I decided I didn't want to move ahead with it. I called and told Dr. Now that.
Chris walked away from the surgery, determined to finish this on his own. While in Dr. Now's program, Chris dropped more than 230 pounds, reaching 382 pounds in less than 1 year. That's more than many patients lose over the course of a year, even with surgery. But impressive as that was, the real question was whether he could keep it up without Dr. Now. Fast forward to February 2026, 3 years after leaving the program, Chris himself had an answer to that question.
I disappeared, and I want to address that directly. Over the last 2 years, I lost sight of what I was building. I stopped doing the simple things that got me healthy in the first place, and I gained the weight back. Not because I didn't know what to do, but because I stopped holding myself accountable. There's no one to blame for that but me.
That is exactly what Dr. Now warned him about. Without surgery, keeping the weight off long term is one of the hardest parts of the whole journey. And Chris is proof of just how real that risk was. But his weight aside, Chris's life took a truly positive turn from when we first met him. In 2023, he got back to work as a delivery driver. By May 2024, he'd proposed to his girlfriend Megan. And today, he's happily married, raising 3 daughters. Good for you, Chris. If you've watched this far, you clearly enjoy my content. For all of you tried and true 600-pound life diehards, consider becoming a Living Large channel member. Weigh in on upcoming video topics with members-only polls, gain early access to new releases, and even score bonus videos exclusively for members. So forego that fast food menu just 1 day per month and make the healthy choice instead. You get all the binge with none of the calories and an awesome community to boot. Thanks in advance for your support. And now on to the next. Charles Bridgman from season 12. Charles was in his early 30s living in Everett, Washington, and over 700 pounds. But Charles's story didn't start with the weight. It started years before that, with a childhood that gave him almost no shot at a normal life.
But my mom was a drug addict. She did meth. She was still a good mom. She still took care of her kids first, and then after that, she did whatever she did. Living alone with just my mom was a give and take situation, I guess you would say. So, she was there. She just also wasn't there. Sometimes we would just have some family time. But most of the time when I got home from school, she would be sitting in front of the TV talking to herself.
So Charles spent most of his childhood at his grandparents' house instead. By high school, he was already using drugs himself. That path led him to a couple years of homelessness and eventually an arrest for drug possession. Rehab got him clean, but the addiction just shifted to food. So Charles reached out to Dr. Now. But from day one, this was not a smooth partnership. He missed appointments, he argued with Dr. Now more than once, and at one point, he got into a heated conversation with Dr. Now and even hung up on him mid-video call.
Charles, you expect me to believe you're going to change all that? I don't see that happening, and you were supposed to come and see us, so none of that happened. So you're not going to do anything else.
I think this interview's over. I'm about to blow up.
And we give you 3 months to change your eating habits and have productive weight loss. You didn't do that, you didn't do diet, you didn't come and sit. So what is the purpose of that? Child, and answer the question.
Can you imagine just closing your laptop on Dr. Now? Still, somehow, Charles lost weight. After months of back and forth with Dr. Now, he decided to start applying himself. He put in the work and stuck to the diet. In just 2 months, Charles dropped over 70 pounds and earned his approval for surgery. But there was a catch. Approval usually means moving to Houston, sometimes for months at a stretch, just to stay near Dr. Now during the recovery. And Charles wasn't ready for that.
I have decided not to move to Houston. It's too far, and I'm not going to leave my family. If I were to move away from my family right now, it'd probably break my heart. Dr. Now has just asked for too much. And so there's no point in going to the appointment.
The only option for you will be to continue to lose weight. Because weight loss surgery, you find that you come to Houston and stay here, and it is safe for you to go back.
Can you make an exception for me at my surgery here because I've been doing so well?
At this point, there is no exception that we can make for you.
Charles didn't want to leave his family behind, not even temporarily. He believed he could finish this on his own right there in Washington. That decision raised a lot of eyebrows, but Charles actually backed it up. By March 2026, he posted on Facebook that he was down to 380 pounds. That's more than 300 pounds lost in about 3 years. He never said whether he got there through diet alone or eventually caved and got the surgery anyway. What is clear is that he never gave up, and his photos prove it. So there you have it, 3 patients who declined surgery and lost the weight in their own way. An impressive feat for anyone to achieve, so I really give them credit. What would you have done? Surgery doesn't replace the hard work, but it can give your body a fighting chance while your mind catches up. Of course, surgery is risky, and there are no guarantees. In fact, 10 patients from My 600-Pound Life actually gained weight after their surgery, and others quit trying long before that point. Both of those videos are on your screen. Check them out next.